You gotta find real music.
We missed the old intro music so much. Adding drums to the sad piano music doesn't make it any better, but it does make me laugh. Welcome to Oh Brother News. I'm Gabe,
I am James.
and we're brothers. And oh brother, have we got some
Crazy shit.
news for you this week? Okay, here in episode 10, this is what we're going to talk about, or some of the things we're going to talk about. We might not get to all of them. What the Democrats need to do: a rant, a tale of two protests. We're going to talk about the Ukraine ceasefire talks, or Zelensky calling Russia's bluff, the economy nosediving and tariff talks. I'm going to quote some stuff from a Ezra Klein interview with an economist. I thought they made some pretty good points. We'll have the link to that video in the show notes. We're going to try out something new. We're going to try an Instagram and response section. And now, in an ideal world, we would have video and we'd play the video. You guys would watch it with us, and then we'd talk about it. But because we don't yet have video, what we're going to do is we're going to pause. We're going to tell you which video we're watching. We're going to go watch this like 1 to 2 minute video on Instagram. Then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it. In the future of this section, they'll be we'll play them. There are several topics for that. We probably won't get to all of them. Just to read through what we have lined up. We'll see which ones we choose. We have one about egg prices. We have one about how war starts in policymaking. We have corporatists versus oligarchs. Doge follow the money. Inspectors general are the ones who actually save us money, kind of related to Doge. We have the difference between MAHA, which stands for Make America Healthy Again, and what it actually is, which is more like MAGDIAH, Make America Go Die in a Hole. We've got the Republicans altering time, which is a fun one. We'll wrap up by doing a shortened version of the game we didn't get to last week. How might we all die? We'll make some additional predictions about what the future holds. Now that our predictions about the economy taking a nosedive have seemingly come true, so we'll make some new predictions. We will talk about what could go right, and do our closing thoughts after all that. So let's get to it. What the Democrats need to do: a rant. I wrote this. I was talking to my wife, and she was like, "Well, what do you think the Democrats need to do differently?" And I think this was kind of a day after the last podcast, or actually no, it was the day after the last time I protested, and I was particularly upset. She said, "Well, okay, they didn't do what you thought in the protest. What do you think they should do?" And I ranted, and then I was like, "Oh, I think I made some good points." So I wrote it down. Okay, so here's what the Democrats need to do. They need to pick the top 3 messages, and all of them need to boil down to Trump is destroying America. Okay, 3 messages are: Trump and Elon are destroying America because they're rich people stealing from the poor. Trump is destroying America because of pick a foreign policy. Trump is destroying America because of pick a domestic policy. And when you are an elected Democrat official, okay, you're a member of the party and you're elected. Anytime you open your mouth and another person is around, you need to begin with Trump is destroying America. Not hello, not my name is, Trump is destroying America. When you order Starbucks and the barista asks your name is Trump is destroying America. When Trump says we're going to invade Canada and they ask your opinion, you will begin by saying Trump is destroying America. And the place that I'm pulling this from is Trump's playbook. Okay, so after Trump lost the election, he spent 4 years going, Sleepy Joe Biden is destroying America because of the immigrants. Sleepy Joe Biden is destroying America with his, this bill, that bill, whatever. Pick a foreign policy, pick a domestic policy. Joe Biden is destroying America. That was his message. And he banged that drum. And every single other Republican did the exact same thing. And they all banged that drum over and over again, every day, everywhere that they went for 4 years. And the Democrats are doing this thing now where everybody's got their issue. These people are like, oh, women's rights. And these people are like, let's not invade Greenland. And these people are like, but it should be called the Gulf of Mexico. And these other people are like, but Guantanamo Bay. And like, but the National Institution of Health. Oh, but he's destroying the Department of Education. They're just taking all the bait. And so like nobody's able to get like a single message. It's just noise. There's no signal. So we need to copy off of them and bang this message. Okay. So there's 300-ish elected Democrats between the Senate and the House. They need to have a single mission to repeat the three-party talking points as many times as possible, in as many different rooms as possible, to as many different people as possible. And Bernie's doing a great job of this, by the way. And I've seen some other people too. I saw Tim Walz actually just today was talking about how Republicans aren't holding town halls. He's going to go do it. This is that. They need to tour every podcast, right, left, center, foreign, film festival. Everyone who will give you the mic, pick it up and repeat the 3 versions of Trump is destroying America. They need to do town halls. They need to go and talk to voters. If it's in your district, great. If it's anywhere else in America, that works too. Every elected Democrat needs to do 2 in-person events and 2 digital media events every week from now until forever. That's the job. Like, previously, it's been, you make some sound bites, comment on the news, you send out a newsletter, you make a speech on the floor, you spend the rest of your time doing fundraising with like a little bit of policy making. This is what you have to do now. You need to be ever present. Everywhere that people are consuming media, they need to see you repeating your message. Every Democrat needs to have the same message. Okay? Like this is exactly what Trump did to Biden. He went on tour, he went on every TV show and podcast, and he got every Republican pounding the same 3 talking points. When you get in a room with someone, and I remember this from being at the protest and seeing, my senator and my congressional representative and another congressional representative, like I stood next to them as they gave speeches, and it humanized them. And this is like part of the popularity of Bernie. Bernie's going to all these places and he's sitting in a room and talking with people. And this is like the part of the brilliance of what Trump did, where he was like, it's this weird thing. Like, why is he holding rallies every week while he's elected? Why is he holding rallies all the time when he just lost the election? This is the reason. You go on tour because when you get in a room with someone, it changes everything. It makes you a human being. It makes you real. It makes you a person they kind of know, not just a clip of news on TV, right? It makes you the person they were in the room with. So you're their guy because you told them personally to their face that you were going to help them, that you cared about them, that you saw, the things that were hurting them and you have a solution and you explained it to them. You need to be, if you're a Democrat, you need to be like stink on shit, unmissable, everywhere, all the time. Okay? You don't take any bait about Greenland or whatever his lie of the day is or any of his other bids for distraction. You let him throw out a million different tiny threads of nonsense and you stick to your 3 talking points. If he gives everyone $1 million and cures cancer and starts flying around like Superman and everybody gets a pony, okay? You stick to your 3 talking points. Then you shut down the government by not making a deal with the Republicans. You make no deals ever at all for anything. Ever at all for anything. This is the McConnell plan. This is the obstructionist party. If you're not in the majority, your job is to be the obstructionist party. Your job is to make everything more difficult. You delay everything. Use every procedural thing that you can to add 5 more seconds to everything, every time, every person, every time. You sue over everything. You make everything hurt everyone as much as possible. And you stick to your talking points because whoever has power gets blamed when things go sideways. And boy, are they going sideways right now. You don't ever talk about policy you would use. Talking about policy to this American electorate is like begging people to not listen to you and to think you are a stupid elitist part of the deep state. It's just begging them to hate you. Okay? You speak exclusively about outcomes. No one cares about the policy. They care about about where you're going to go because of the policy. Okay, we're all going to be rich. We're all going to be healthier. The food's going to be cheaper. The food's going to be healthier. Everyone's going to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about how, like, in order to do that, we're going to fund healthier school lunches with this, tax policy. We're going to stop buying potato chips for kids. So it's going to hurt the potato chips people a little bit. Like, you don't talk about how it's going to require exercise. You just talk about the outcomes. This is what Trump does. Oh, it's going to be so great. It's going to be the best ever. Like, half the time he doesn't even talk about the outcome specifically. He talks about the relative ranking of the outcome to any other outcomes, and it's
Or
always the best, the most,
or or
the
it's gonna be
goldest.
or it's gonna be excellent because of a non sequitur.
Or it's going to be
It's
excellent. Like, yeah, exactly. Okay. If people are simple and tired and stupid and uneducated, then the game of politics gets really simple. Okay. You need to be in the room and on the podcast and on the TV every time they turn it on. And when you're there, you need to be repeating the same message so often they hear it in their sleep. So often they start humming it as they walk down the street. So often it becomes an absurd challenge to common knowledge to think anything else.
yeah. And
Everyone already with you is with you.
see, I don't disagree with any of that. I don't
Hold
disagree
on,
with
hold
any
on.
of that. Oh, okay,
I'm at the finish, okay? And
okay.
for fuck's sake, whatever you do, do not say the words trans, pronouns, or DEI. If you give half a fuck about anyone these would help, keep they name out your motherfucking mouth. This is how you win. It is that simple, but fucking it up is just as easy. See Hillary and Kamala. And when you win, you better immediately and massively transfer wealth from the rich to the poor. That is the only mission. You bang your drum, you impersonate Robin Hood day in and day out. Maybe stretch goals, something for climate change, and you use some power to hurt Russia for the sake of hurting Russia because they are coming for your neck with every resource they have. Take away their tools, be vicious, be single minded, wield power, not promises. Okay, now, thoughts.
Well, a couple things. One, I don't necessarily disagree with much of that, right? I think they should be doing the town halls. I think they should be going on the podcast. I think they should be doing all that, right? I think they should be doing all the court stuff, right? And I think they are going to be doing the court stuff. And I think they are going to be trying whatever procedural stuff they can do. And they are. But here's why. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, but I think the reason why they're not out there, which is I think is a mistake a little bit. It's a if your enemy's hanging themselves, right? What are you going to do?
You're going to give them some rope.
Give them some rope, get out of the way. If you become ever present like stink on shit, right? And you're everywhere banging the drum about why he's so bad, you're making yourself a foil, right?
No, you're the guy
Well,
with the message. Like,
yes, but
Trump
you're
didn't
the
even Biden didn't even do bad. Biden didn't even do bad. Trump just said he did every day, and people, like, lost track of reality that, like, things were worse under Trump.
I know, which is embarrassing, but but I think what they're doing is, and I think it will ramp up and get more and more like that. I think they're starting slow because when any new administration starts, even Trump, man, I mean, shit, he started off with like a positive, a couple points, like 8 point positive, 50 something percent approval rating the day after being elected. He hasn't done anything yet, right? And usually they have that quote honeymoon period, right? Which is dwindled away already now. But I think what you don't want to do is immediately start making yourself out to be the party of obstruction when they are doing just fine about imploding. If they're being very unpopular, they're kind of thinking, okay, shit, let's stay out of the way a little bit. He is hanging himself here. We'll keep doing the procedural stuff. We'll try this. We'll try that. But let's just stay out of the way for a while because he's getting underwater on his own. And once he's maybe 5-10 points underwater, then we can just stay piled on for the rest of the term. You know what I mean? I think that's maybe more their strategy. Let it become more like an organic thing. When the Democrats start screaming every single second of the day how he's destroying America, wait until the majority of America is kind of already there. That way, it's easier to not be the obstructionist party.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know?
know. I mean, that's not what McConnell did with Biden, or I'm sorry, with Obama. Like, they were the obstructionist party from the moment they got power in the midterms. They were like this. I'm directly cribbing the playbook from the Republicans. Is exactly what they've used as like for a long time they've been like the thought minority party, right? Like in terms of like public opinion, what how do people feel about the issues? The Republicans have been in the pocket of the oligarchs
They still are. Yeah.
for a long time, right? And like the things that are good for oligarchs are not generally good for the small guy. Like the
Mhm.
little guy needs to be able to get a student loan. The little guy needs for like the roads to be good because he doesn't have a helicopter he can fly on. Like all the small stuff adds up for the little guys. The big guys with billions of dollars don't care. But it's difficult to win an election when you are
Selling
like,
that.
what
You
if we
can't
took
sell
all
that.
the money away from everything that we do for poor people and just sold it back to you so the rich people could get richer? Wouldn't that be cool for them? Not you, but for them. It's like, right? America, yay. Like in order to pitch that, like you have to lie. And so like for a
Well,
long time, the Democrats were the popular party. And they got so used to being that they lost um, they put down their knives and they
I don't
stopped
remember when
being
that
knife
was.
fighters.
I don't remember when that was, honestly. I don't remember when they became the popular party. It's been,
The Democrats,
yes. I don't
I
remember
feel
that
like the
time.
Democrats have been on the right side of popular opinion since
Oh, that,
Clinton.
yes, they've been on the right side of popular opinion on issues.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean it's ever
since
helped them.
Clinton.
Doesn't mean it's ever helped them. Doesn't mean it's ever helped them on anything. Doesn't mean they've ever had majorities for it. Doesn't mean voters vote the way they feel about issues. It's been neck and neck. God, decades, man, decades. And yes, on issue after issue after issue, people like the Democratic point of view on the issues. They just don't vote that way, which is sad. They don't vote that way.
I
They
think it's because like they vote based on this like
it's like this election right
the
here. All the
vibes.
women, yeah, it's this election right here is like all the women who, you know, I want to right to choose. I disagree with Republicans on this and this and this. I'm going to vote for Tammy Duckworth and Donald Trump. What the hell's wrong with you? Those people. You know, those people are. I'm going to vote for AOC and Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump at the top. I mean, they. It's they're voting against their interests because probably from the beginning part. The sound bites, the little clips. Hey, your life is bad. I'll make it better. That's it. That's your selling
Yep.
point. That's it.
Yep.
Just leave it at that. He sucks. God, he's ruining everything. He's bad. I'll fix it. How are you going to fix it? It'll be easy. Just watch. There you go. That's your answer. Just watch.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he
Same
did.
same message. They're ruining everything,
Yeah.
you know,
So,
and I'll fix it. It'll be easy. It'll be great. You'll love it.
yeah. So, we'll see. I'm hoping they. I'm really hoping they do get out there more, man. Um, I live in a little rural town of Red, Indiana, and I would be shocked if I ever seen a Democratic politician. I mean, not some local guy from a neighboring town. I'm talking about like any kind of statewide office holders, anybody coming anywhere within 50 miles of this place. I'd be shocked.
I don't even know if there are Democrats who are elected to government in Indiana. I mean, maybe in like
There's
state
a
government there has to be
some
some, right?
there's some, yeah. I mean, it's
I mean,
state
Buttigieg was from
legislature
Indiana.
people, yeah, the state legislature people, and like around Indianapolis and some of the big towns. Um, Not enough to do anything. I mean, you might have a mayor or some other town, but you're not going to have like I don't know if there's any statewide office. Statewide. Um, Democrat, and like office holder in Indiana.
So let me continue this. I feel like this what the Democrats need to do dovetails, like it's just is very intermixed with this tale of two protests. So let me
No,
tell
it's
you a
really
little bit about protest pamphlet and about the last two protests that I went to. So a couple weeks ago, after the after Zelensky got ambushed in the Oval, there was a protest. I think it was that Saturday, either that Saturday or Sunday in Chicago, and the Ukrainians have been protesting for a long time, and I've been going to Ukrainian protests for over a year. And so over that time, I started to notice like these are the ones that are good, these are the ones that are bad, or I guess less good. But these are the things that make them better, like that you need to try to do in your protests, and these are the things you need to avoid. Uh, so I took some of that stuff and I spent a little bit of time. I spent like a little bit of time and I wrote like these are all the things I should write in this thing, and then I took a few of those things and I actually kind of wrote them out. That's protest pamphlet. And there's a kind of like some of that stuff was distributed to the people who are organizing and leading these Ukrainian protests, and a lot of the things that are in protest pamphlet happened at this Ukrainian protest. So some of those are when you're protesting, you are trying to draw the attention of everyone around you. Ideally, you're going to get the news media, you're going to get some social media coverage, but you absolutely have the attention of everyone who like drives by, everyone who walks by, everyone else who's on the street at the same time, because you're
mm-hmm.
out there holding signs and yelling, right? And like, you're giving speeches and using blowhorns and you have a microphone. So in the case of this particular Ukraine protest, like we had thousands of people, we had three elected representatives, we had like four different news agencies that were there covering it. Um, So like that already is like, making it kind of like a success. But the thing that happened over the course of the protest, right, is that they had six different messages. And I saw the people with the blowhorns had them written down on paper. That's one of the things in protest pamphlets is like know what people are going to chant. And you want to have a small number of those. Like you want to have between like 5 and 7 different chants, like different messages. You want to keep each one of those short so that if one person yells it, everyone else can remember it. You want to keep them all serious and on the same topic.
Yep. Stay on message.
Stay on message, right? Like you can't like if every single time someone goes to yell something, it's a different number of times. The other thing is like you want to say it 3 times, right? Like say the thing the you have like a leader and then a response, right? So like there's kind of two ways, right? One person can say the whole chant, everyone else can repeat the same chant, or someone could do a call and then there's a response. I don't love the call and response. I like it better when it's just one chant because it keeps everybody aligned. And the thing that you do when you keep everybody aligned is you build the energy. Everyone goes, yeah, this is the message. This is the thing that I agree with. And it builds the energy. The other thing that it does when you have a small number of messages is that after you've been yelling the same things for 5-10 minutes, everybody knows them. So when somebody's voice is tired or you're too far away from the guy with the mic, somebody else can take it up. And if you always know it's going to be, we're going to say this 3 times and then we're going to move to the next one, then you have this like natural order. You're going to say it 3 times and then someone else will pick the next one. And that was happening at the Ukraine protest. The other thing you want to do is you want to be clear about what you're going to do. We're going to be at this place at this time. We're going to have speeches for about this long. We're going to walk to this other place. We're going to have more speeches there. That's going to be it. And you do that allows everyone to gather, to show up, to know what's going on. If you are like, oh, be at this place at this time and we'll tell you more when you get there, everyone who can't hear you, and it's often really difficult to hear if you're not right next to someone, even when you have a mic and blowhorns, you're 30 feet away, you're in the middle of the city, it's hard to hear, right? So have your plan, communicate your plan, small number of chants, um, You do all these things, you build the energy over the protest. And so what happened at this protest was the energy just built and built and built until everybody, like nobody wanted to go at the end. Like we ended up in like a larger area. The area was full of people. They were making up impromptu speeches. They were going over all the information in the QR codes for like how to donate or next steps, or like social media links. Um, so like everybody was hyped up, right? Everyone knew the message. Contrast that with this Tesla protest that I went to more recently, a week after that. You go to the Tesla protest and like they don't have a clear plan for what we're going to do, and like they spend some time being like, oh, we didn't get the permit, we're not going to march, and then they're like, oh wait, no, actually we are going to march, after like 20 minutes of people yelling. The signs aren't consistent. Some people are like, Elon Musk sucks, and like so this is the difference. Like the Ukrainian protesters, right? They're protesting this specific thing. They don't want the war. They don't want the minerals deal. They want
Be pulled
justice.
out. Yeah.
They don't want Russia. Russia's a terrorist state. Like they have clear messages. Everything is serious. But this like Democrats, like it was Indivisible Chicago against Tesla. It like is so, it's just a mess. Like some people are dancing, some people are banging on pots. Half the signs are just like who can make the funniest meme. Like but none of them are on brand. None of them are on point. There's no consistency. Like there isn't one person who made like 50 signs. It's all different people. Everyone's got their own sign, their own message. Some people are talking about Ukraine. Some people are talking about how we don't like Elon's not an elected official. Some people are like, oh, we don't want Trump. Like it was a million different messages. There were a bunch of like pussy power messages. So there was like a very explicit like pussy power sign with like a three-dimensional paper mache, vagina vulva, and like pubic hair like coming around. It was a whole production of like so many different ridiculous things, and some of them were funny. But then like you get to the chants, and like one of the chants was like this is literally what the chant was, and she like even the person who introduced this chant is like, all right, so look, this chant's a lot, but like stay with me. Here's what it was. Oh Canada, Viva, Viva, Mexico! Trump and Elon have to go. Oh, Canada. And it's just like, that is not, like, that's a song. It's a terrible song, but it's a song. It's not a protest chant. And like the message like doesn't make any sense. Like you're just cobbling together a hodgepodge of things in the news. Like, it was just, and like that was like the theme of the whole thing, was just sort of like no consistency. So you had people yelling like, whose streets? Our streets. Or show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. And I'm sitting there thinking like, this isn't what democracy looks like. We're not going to vote. We're opposing our own democracy because we don't like the things that they're doing. This is what protest looks like. This is what civil disobedience looks like. And like the idea of like the whose streets? Our streets. That goes back to like the Black Lives Matter movement, where like they're trying to say we're claiming the streets because this is a place where we are safe, where we can exist. This isn't your place that we're not allowed to be. This is our place that we are allowed to be. Public is the place that we're allowed to be and allowed to be safe. Right? Like there was a specific political message behind that chant. And here we're appropriating it with like no context, no like understanding of what that is. And the chants would just go on and on and on. Like sometimes it'd be like 10 times and then someone would make up a new one. So like it was chaos. And at the end, like, and even in the middle, people were just like walking away, wandering off, like, oh, we're not doing it. Like people are asking like each other, like, are we marching? We're not marching. Oh, okay. Some people left. And then then there was a march. And then it's, the end of the march, people are like, okay, well, we marched. Like, that's it. Let's get out of here. Nobody, nobody had the beat, right? Like nobody knew what the point was because the organizers didn't know what the point was. And like, this is the thing that makes me so passionate about like what the Democrats need to do. It is because it's the same thing. Like an election cycle is just a protest. Like it's just a massive nationwide protest where you're like, the
Organizing
people
events.
who have who have power right now shouldn't, and here's why. Like, so you have to have a simple message that you repeat over and over again so everybody can get behind it and get hyped up about it.
It's all about organizing. It's basically just organization. Like when you're talking about the message, it goes back to the same thing. Your protests go back to the same thing. Talk about here's what every Democrat needs to do: stay on message. Here's what they all need to be doing. They need to be organizing everybody. Everybody needs to be on the same page. Get everybody on board on the same message. And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it falls in protest. Like when Gabe was telling me about this a little bit ago, made me think of a West Wing episode, season 2, episode 16. By the way, I figured it out while we were talking about
Nice.
there.
Nice.
It's the name of the episode is "Somebody's Going to Emergency, Somebody's Going to Jail." Right, and it was pretty classic because it's all about they were having I think it was a World Trade Organization like event or something like in. It was a bunch of Democrats, a bunch of random groups of people come in to demonstrate against these global elites, and of course in the episode all these people protesting, they can't articulate anything. They're all over the place. They're all shouting different things. There's no cohesion to it. That's and a lot of times that's the way. And sadly, that's the way a lot of protests go. Uh, that's the way a lot of them go. It's kind of hard to get everybody on the same page, but the hope is at least we can get everybody on the same team, even if everybody's not on the same page. But
Yeah, totally.
it's hard to do when everybody's has no idea what the message is or what the real protest is.
And I mean, at the same time, like, so like it was a real contrast, and it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of frustrating, and it like highlighted the need for someone to like add some organization and some experience. Um, I have I've been kind of sick, so I haven't done it, but it's definitely on my to-do list to contact Indivisible Chicago and then to put some more work into protest pamphlet. I'm probably going to start attaching it in the show notes also. It's like a read-only Google Doc. Um, but it's not just me. Anyone else listening to this can, take some time, do some organizing, figure out what the message is, what they want to put on a sign, come up with something that can be the slogan. Um, all the contributions are still contributions and they all help. And even like a wildly disorganized group in the street protesting is still a signal to other people that you're not alone in feeling afraid, in feeling angry, in feeling like your country doesn't reflect your values, in feeling like the idea of what your country is, like that you've had your whole life, has been stolen from you and bastardized. And it's now this mutilated thing that you don't recognize and that you don't agree with and that you cannot stand. Like, you know, even being out in the street dancing with ridiculous protest slogans, like there's still something like really inspiring and really beautiful in that because it's people willing to come out and do anything because they're so upset. They have to do something,
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, you can tell these people aren't out here protesting often. These people aren't organizing protests often. Like, you can tell that they're new to it, but that they still care. So even like a bad protest is
I don't
still
know. I
like
don't know protest.
is still better than no protest. Absolutely. And like, every episode is somebody's first episode. Every protest is somebody's first protest, Like, you got to start somewhere. And like everything else, the willingness to fail bigly is what eventually gets you to succeeding bigly. Okay, let's talk about tariffs and the economy. Your thoughts?
Oh, let's see. Well, I guess my first thought would be it's a quote from Corneliu Zelia. I don't even know how to say this. I'm not French. Cadrianu or something for my Legionnaires. And he said the quote is, "The first and fiercest punishment ought to fall first on the traitor, second on the enemy. If I had but one bullet, Now we're faced by both an enemy and a traitor. I would let the traitor have it. and and
Hell yeah.
that is not a call to the Secret Service. But I think it's pretty obvious that we have a traitor in the Oval Office who is at. I don't even think you can say at best incompetent. I mean, it's a given that he's incompetent. But I mean, the tariffs combined with everything else, I really do just think that Trump is a traitor. He's a plant. He is an enemy of this country at the highest position in the country. And the tariffs are just another way to do it, man. You know, he declares emergency powers, an economic emergency upon taking office. You know, days and weeks after newspapers are talking about our economy as the envy of the world and how we have the absolute best recovery post COVID. And man, oh my God, we're in for a gilded age. I mean, this is literally the papers that talk about our economy. When he comes in, they said we are on pace to have a gilded age, like rivaling the Roaring Twenties. About how much our economy is firing on all cylinders. It is just booming. It is just in the black as far as profits go. As far as the eyes can see, wow! Look at America. And he takes over, declares a national emergency that gives him the ability to tank that shit, kill the economy, tariff everything, flip flop back and forth on tariffs, and nobody knows what you're doing. Part of it is just to make a lot of noise and attention about tariffs. Say I'm going to tariff everything under the sun, just so people talk about that, so they're not paying attention when you're shredding documents, and trying to go around the courts. Or I'm going to put a 50% tariff on Canada if they don't agree to become a state, and they get people to ignore the fact that um, you've spent $18 million so far golfing of their money. He's on pace to get to bilk America for 3 times as much as he did the first time around, which was really expensive. He's on pace to spend over $400 million of taxpayer money on himself at his own property.
14 of 52 days in office he has spent golfing.
Yeah,
26.92% according to
yeah.
Trump
I
Golf
mean,
Track.
it's if you're acting like you're just crazy and a hothead, I'm going to threaten tariffs left and right. That's one big news story that's going to rock the economy, right? And tank markets and flip flop markets and everything else. And but it'll take pressure off of the minutia of, oh wow, he just wasted $18 million on 30 migrants that they tried to put in Guantanamo and then turned around and had them all come back because it was a stupid thing that wasn't going to work. And we're not really having these mass deportations that I promised.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the tariffs, I mean, everything he's done so far is destroying America. Tariffs are just one more. I think he's a traitor. So that's where I stand.
So to cover response there, while I was listening to you. So like to your point about incompetence, Bush was incompetent. You know,
Bush two. You're talking about
Bush
Bush
too.
W.
Yeah,
Yeah, he may have been
W.
incompetent, but he
W
had
was
people.
incompetent, but
He
he
had
was a patriot. That is an incompetent patriot, and he did have the extremely potent Dick Cheney.
and he
Uh,
had people that, although I disagree with them to to my
yeah,
dying breath, they for the most part were competent, even if their ideas were flawed. And you know,
yeah. And
yeah,
then like the other thing is like to your point about how um the idea of like the relationship between the state of the economy, who has power or is about to have power, and the way that it's covered in the media, right? Like if you're looking at right-leaning media before Trump gets elected, they're all echoing Trump, which is to say this is the worst economy ever. Everything is so terrible. Biden
until
is ruining America. He's destroying the country. Everyone's so poor.
maybe he kind of screwed himself a week after the election, saying how he fixed it, because
Then
he did
then like
declare
as
that he
soon
fixed
as
it.
yeah, like as soon as he wins, right? There's like all the tech companies and Elon get their big bump, which by the way, all of that is gone now. Like Elon's down 100 $48 billion, $118 billion, some over $100 billion. So I stopped counting after that. But he's down on paper in value. Um, but like the left leaning media was like, oh look, the economy is doing this. These are the numbers. These are the statistics. Oh well, look, the unemployment is super low. The inflation is coming down. This is the amount of stagflation. This is the amount of God, what did they call it? They called it like it was the other kind of inflation that was like the businesses are giving you less stuff for more money, or the businesses are just charging
Oh,
more money.
like the shrinkflation.
Shrinkflation. Yeah, like the bag of chips now has
Or
like
Tic
five
Tacs.
fewer chips in it.
Remember, Donald Trump sat there for 5 minutes holding up two different packages of Tic Tacs to show you what inflation is.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So like, they were just yelling about how bad the economy was as literally we were drilling the most of any country in history. The stock market was setting a record by going up another 1,000 points like every other month, or like every month. I think like it was just like weeks and weeks in a row of continuous like record-setting growth. Um, Meanwhile, like Trump and the right-leaning media is saying, "Oh, it's terrible," and then as soon as he wins, like
Oh, it's
he
great.
didn't
We fixed
change
it.
anything, but now it's like, "Oh, look, the markets are everything's different. Everything is good now." Like nothing changed. And then now here we are on the other side, right? So first Trump comes in, he's like, "See, I fixed it," because people were like, "Oh, look, we got Trump now. Everything will be great, I'm sure." Because surely he won't do all that dumb nonsense he's saying about the tariffs, and surely he won't like deport all the people who, make all of the food or build all of the buildings. Surely he won't spend
Or clean all the Trump
government money
properties.
on this. Surely he won't, fire tens of thousands of government workers and take away all the money from all those, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all the things that he's done, right? And so then
You can
then
run
the
on
market
that.
sees that he's doing all of that, and the Dow just starts to eat shit, and we looked at it. If you go back 1 month, it's down 3,897 points. That's
Yeah,
8.72%
yeah,
in the past month.
almost
And if you
9%.
go back a little further, it's even worse. It's just been going down since he got elected. It's been straight fucking nosedive, accelerating the further away from him getting elected that we get. And
Yep.
it's because he's doing all of this wildly chaotic shit. Um, and the thing that I want to point out is this Ezra Klein video where he was talking to an economist, and there was some stuff in there that I'm going to pull from memory. I'll link this thing in the show notes, but I want to talk about some of the stuff that was in there because I thought it was really interesting. So they talked about like the idea of tariffs, right? Like just like generally, like not even like this implementation or execution or like some other one, but just like the idea, right? The idea of tariffs is kind of like it's going to give you two tools. One of them is to rearrange your economy by saying, we're going to make more of these things here, and we're going to make them more competitive in the short term so we can retool our economy to do them here. Like maybe we want to do more farming, maybe we want to do more mining, maybe we want to do more um, manufacturing. Okay, so we're going to say things that come from other places are going to be more expensive, which is going to allow us to have, here in
Targeted.
the American economy, we
Everything
pay
targeted.
people a better wage because the cost of living is higher, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna make it so that those goods, they can't just be cheaper because the cost of living is cheaper somewhere else. So that's how we're gonna allow the American companies to compete as they're building up their infrastructure. But to build up the infrastructure, it takes a long time. Like say you're doing something like building cars. Okay, so like if you're BMW and you're building cars in Germany, you have your factory in Germany, you have your workers in Germany, you're always going to ship your car over and just pay a tariff when it comes in, right? But if you're building a car in America,
Back
the
and
way
forth,
we
back and
set
forth.
this up with
Yep.
what was hailed by Trump, in fact, as
Renegotiated by Trump.
yes, negotiated and hailed by Trump as the greatest trade deal ever from when he was in
Yep.
office previously. Now he's calling it the worst deal. Only who are these idiots who signed this thing? You,
Yeah,
sir.
hold on.
You're
What?
the
Five
idiot who
years
signed
ago?
it.
6 years ago? Something like that?
Yeah, it was in 2019, so it was like 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. So like that deal, the way that the economy works for selling cars is like different parts. go through, like, materials will come in from out of the country, right? Some of the steel we make here, some of the steel we import. We import a lot of steel because other countries make it more cheaply. So we import a lot of steel. Then we turn that steel into stuff here in America at a factory. Then we send it off to Canada, which does something else to it, adds something to it, makes it into something else, whatever else. Then they ship it back into America and then through America down to Mexico, where some other stuff happens down in Mexico.
Or assembled.
And this happens, like, for some parts as many as 8 times, where it goes in and out of America 8 times. Okay. And eventually it gets assembled in America because we've set up this system of free trade where, like, things going across the border doesn't increase the cost beyond what it costs to ship it around. And the reason you do that is because it's really difficult to go, how much value was added here, how much value was added there, what steel went and became this type of product, what steel went and became that type of product. It's really difficult to manage all of that. But if you want to be able to take advantage of, like, different workforces and different environments and, like, different tax incentives in all these different places, then you spread the manufacturing process around. And that's what we've done. So, like, the idea that we're going to, like, suddenly switch to, like, oh, okay, everything that comes in from Canada, everything that comes in from Mexico, we're going to put a tariff on it. Like, you're going to make American manufacturing so much more expensive
Yeah.
because the stuff that we build here, we build with raw materials that come from somewhere else. Like, take wood as an example, okay? So, like, most of the lumber that we build houses with, we want it to come from up north because when it grows in a colder temperature, it grows slower, and because it's colder, it grows harder. So the wood from up north is much, like, more sturdy. It's better for houses. It lasts longer. It's better wood. That's why we import the wood from Canada. And like, the wood in America, like, for one, there's not even close to as much wood in America. There's dramatically less, but it's all this, like, softer wood that's not as good for building. And the idea that we're going to, like, start making trees, to try to, like, compete with Canada, like, we're years away from being able to have the trees, but, like, we don't even have the right climate in America to build the trees anyway. That's why we were importing the wood from Canada to build houses. So, like, like, take something like housing prices, right? Like, it's a double whammy. So, like, one, we can't get the wood from Canada that we need, so we're going to use less. We're going to use the more
Shittier wood.
scarce, less good wood that's not going to last long. So we're going to produce lower quality houses at a higher cost by just using our own wood. Uh, but we're also removing a lot of the immigrants. Well, what are some of the really common jobs that immigrants do? It's food service, it's farming, and it's construction, because those are, like, the difficult and often low paying jobs that a lot of people don't want to do. So you're removing the people who would do the building, you're increasing the cost, or lowering the quality, or both, of the goods. And the other thing that happens when you have a tariff, okay, is if the other, like, say you're like Joe lumber guy in America, and you're like, oh, well, Canadian wood is more expensive now. Do you just keep selling your wood at the same price? Like, no, you don't. Of course not. You raise your price to just a little bit cheaper than the Canadian would. So now you're only a little bit cheaper because you would like to make a little bit more money. So, like, this is the other thing that happens. Like, you raise the price of the other country's goods. Well, the American goods also go up in price anyway. So the consumer just has to pay more. That's the only option. You just raise the prices, right? Then you're shrinking the labor force. So we were at like 4% unemployment. But now we're
That's higher.
getting rid of all these farmers and construction workers. So housing is going to be even more expensive, not less. Food is going to be more expensive, not less. And on the topic of food, 80% of American farms uses a fertilizer that comes from Canada. 80%. So we're charging more for the import of this fertilizer. And we get the fertilizer from Canada for the same reason we get the trees there, because we don't have it here. We can't just, like, you can't squeeze water from a stone. You can't make up new fertilizer to be here in America when the things that make the fertilizer aren't here. So the cost of housing is more expensive, double whammy. The cost of food is more expensive, double whammy. And the idea that, like, you're going to bring them to be American industries is so far fetched because it takes years of, like, investment and time for that to happen. And, like, people are like, and the other thing is, like, Trump is changing the tariffs by the day sometimes. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
Tuesday
wildly up and
on
down this way and that way.
Yeah, Tuesday he announced the 50% tariff on Canada and Mexico, or Canada, if they don't agree to become the 51st state. Wednesday, that they he backs down on that, and they credited Howard Lutnick for making a deal, talking to Canadian Premier, Ford, whatever, talking to him and making a deal, and he got Trump to not do that 50% tariff 6 hours after he said he was doing it. That's how rapidly it changed. 6 hours later, they called it off. Said no, we're not going to see those 50% tariffs tomorrow. But he already did the damage. I mean, he tanked the stock market 500 points that day. And then the fact that he 6 hours later changes his mind doesn't exactly bring all that certainty back to the markets. Like, oh, good, it's off again, buy. Oh, it's on again, sell. I mean, they're like, well, let's just hold on, man. You
Hmm.
know, uh,
So
yeah.
like whether it's a bid to rearrange what gets made where, or if it's a bid to like negotiate in the short term for whatever things you want to be different from another country, it, it's not working in either case. Like in either case, it's not going to be good for America
Hmm.
short term, and like
And it's
it's
even
not
worse long term.
clear if the tariffs are going to like last long enough because Trump is just so chaotic in order for you to like be a business that's going to go, okay, well, we can't build um okay, we won't build a new factory in Mexico because then we're going to have tariffs, so we'll build it in the USA. But because like it takes huge amounts of money and long amounts of time to rebuild those industries. Like we're going to rebuild the steel industry, we're going to rebuild the farm industry like in America. Like it's like 70% of avocados come from Mexico. Like we're just going to start growing avocados in Mexico. Like we don't really have the climate for it, and we don't have the laborers for it. We only have 4% unemployment, so I don't know who the fuck you think is going to go and like pick avocados, or how long it's going to take for the avocado farm that they're going to start building now to pay off, or why someone is going to feel confident investing in a massive American avocado farm when the tariffs change every other day. So, like, all of this together,
What about those
when we
bananas
said
in
if
coffee?
Trump gets elected or when Trump gets elected, the economy is going to go to shit. This is what was in our minds generally when we made that prediction. Like this will be a shit show, and here you see how it is an
Okay.
absolute mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was more that I can't remember that was in. There's like an hour long thing with an economist, and he has this cool thing that I would love to do, but it's always the two of us. So like he has guests much more often. Whenever he has a guest, he asks them to recommend 3 books. So she recommended some cool books, and she was talking about Ezra was talking about a book that she wrote recently, and she was talking about a book that Ezra wrote a while ago, and like his next one that's coming out, which all sounded really interesting. I just can't remember the names of them. But yeah, so I'll have that in the show notes. You guys can check it out. It's definitely a good listen. Okay, so we have. I know you want to try to keep us at an hour. We're at 53 minutes. We have our Instagram section if you want to do some of that. We have our Republicans altering the timeline predictions. How might we all die? Um, and our traditional closing stuff. So, how do you feel about time? What things do you want to? What do you want to jump into next?
Um, well, it's on the tariffs thing. That's when it's straight. If people haven't seen the Rachel Maddow from this week, is a little known thing that if it wasn't for Rachel Maddow, I never would have caught that. I mean, God, I didn't see any other mainstream or any other media source actually talk about it,
Yeah.
which was it's insane, and I can't believe more people weren't talking about it because the Democrats, like we talked about earlier, trying every little procedural thing to muck things up and everything else. Chuck Schumer doing the right thing. It's like, hey, you know what? The only reason these tariffs are happening is because he's declaring an emergency. The National Emergencies Act, whatever. It's declaring an economic emergency. So there's a procedure. If the Senate goes to put up a vote that says, "Hey, we're putting up a vote to declare this is not an emergency. You can take the emergency away from the president." And so Chuck Schumer's like, yeah, we're going to force this vote. We have to vote on whether or not this is a real emergency. And everybody knows there was no emergency that required us going batshit crazy on tariffs left and right every other day, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Republicans did not want to vote on that. They don't want to say no to Donald Trump, and they don't want to make a vote saying that, well, A, they don't want to go against Donald Trump, and B, they don't want to have voted against Donald Trump, but they can't exactly vote for all these tariffs that everybody knows is stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for the purposes of section blah 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 of the National Emergencies Act, they declared the rest of this Congress will constitute one calendar day for the remainder of the term, because the rules say very clearly, if somebody's going to challenge the national emergency, they have 15 days, 15 calendar days to vote. So the Republicans passed a little thing saying, with respect to the national emergency, the rest of this term is one calendar day. So they'll never hit 15 days. They'll never hit 2 days. The rest
Like
of the calendar, yes.
the nonsense is so
It's
is
so
so
in your face.
brazen.
It is
Yeah.
so the the bullshit is right out in front of you. Everybody can get a really good whiff of it. Hey, everybody, look how full of shit we are. It's like that George Carlin thing. Look how full of shit we are. The rest of the year is only one day. We have 15 days to vote against this, but the rest of the year is only one day. And
I
how
don't
you like that?
understand how they can get away with that. Like if the law says you got 15 days, I don't understand how they can alter the
Well, because
the
it's like,
counting of time. Like that just seems that seems so wild to me that they can get away with that.
well, maybe, hopefully, they will take that to court. But it's kind of hard. You know why? Here's why it's hard. Usually, branches of government, like the courts, right?
Hmm.
The court is okay. The legislative branch might pass a bill that affects people, and they can say, "Hey, wait, no, this is unconstitutional," right?
Hmm.
Which I argue the Democrats should, on constitutional grounds, challenge this. Just challenge it. Hey, they have 15 calendar days. This is about a national emergency. This affects the entire country. They can't say it's one day just so we can't vote. I would challenge it in court.
Yeah,
And they might be able to, but
absolutely. They
usually
should.
courts. But
Hopefully they will.
courts are generally, they don't like trying to rule another branch. Same reason why the legislative branch doesn't really want to tell the Supreme Court a list of ethics rules that they have to follow. They say, "Hey, well, they're a co-equal branch. They do their
Oh my God,
thing.
they
We do
should.
our thing." They
Oh, they
should.
need to so
Well,
hard.
exactly. Well, do you really want this group of Republicans making the ethics rules for this Supreme Court? I mean, come on. But I get your point.
Yeah, I mean, let them make the rules be like can't be black, can't be woman, can't not hate gay people.
Yeah, can't not hate gay people. You have to. That is a prerequisite. That is a litmus test.
Yes.
But they generally don't like doing that. Usually, the courts don't like saying, "Well, that was them affecting their own law. That's their own rules. We don't want the legislator telling us how to run our court. We don't want to tell them how to run their house." Usually, that's the way it goes. So it'd be hard, but I think they got a good case.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It's just
so
such a it's
it's such a
just
bullshit move. It's such a
it's
bullshit, obvious
man.
bullshit move. But also everybody should remember that and talk about that and remember that. Like, hey, yeah, your Republicans in Congress there, they totally don't like these tariffs either. They went way outside the box thinking, just to make sure they wouldn't have to vote against it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were saying things like, Trump's going to surround himself with people who are going to temper his wildest impulses and kind of keep him in line and keep him from doing the crazier stuff. And I think that was true the first time. He was very frustrated by the the walls, the limits of power that he bumped up against. It's
Mm-hmm.
him telling Pence to not certify the election. all the times that he said to prosecute Hillary, and they said there's nothing to go after her about. He said to prosecute Comey, and they said there's nothing to go after him about. We're
Go
not
after
we're not doing
Biden.
that.
Go after this one. Go for yeah. Go after
Yeah,
everybody.
it's like it's just
Go after
like
Comey, man.
it's
Comey gave it.
whack-a-mole of all the things that he tried to do the first time that he didn't get to do because somebody was there who was the adult in the room and stopped him from doing it. And even like his tariffs the first time were much more measured, and that's because he had much more serious people in all of these positions. And that's why this time he had to go for like the bloggers and the TV hosts and the
And the Russian journalists,
and the
journalists in quotes.
and the Russian plants and the Florida, rent a cop AG, like the lawyers, like he has to
His
drag the
own
bottom of the
criminal defense
barrel to get
attorneys.
somebody who has nothing else to stand on, no career, no history, no like
Certainly no
real
morals.
caring about like public service. Yeah, like the only requirement
Is you have to
is
follow him.
is
Do
absolute
what he does.
loyalty
Yeah.
for everything.
Which they did. They were doing that. Remember across the FBI, they were giving the quote loyalty pledges to all the FBI people now.
Yeah, like that's like the deputy director of the FBI is like Dan Beninga, who's still running his podcast. Like that's his thing. He's a podcaster. He's not even a lawyer. He's just a podcaster. Like I guess we could be. I think we said this in the episode we talked about it, but like we could be the deputy director of the FBI. We have just as much credentials. Like it's it hurts. It hurts to think about because like I feel like my idea of what the country was based in like Americana. It was Bill Clinton giving a speech. It was Obama talking about hope and change. It was Bernie Sanders talking about how healthcare is a human right, and all the other countries that are well developed and wealthy like America, but less than America, are giving their citizens all of these things. Uh, they're giving them insurance. They're making it so no one goes broke from an injury. They're funding public options for education, public options for healthcare. They're funding like childcare. So like it doesn't make financial sense for you to stay home and watch your kids instead of going and getting a job and working because the cost of childcare is more than what you would make if you worked in a day. Like all these common sense things that other countries have done that we're not doing, or like this idea that we're like doing things for moral reasons, that we're like sending troops to places, that we're funding things, that we're um, doing USAID because we don't want kids to die of AIDS in some other country, or we don't want people to have Ebola in other countries, or we're funding cancer research because we want things to become better. Like we're inventing insulin because we want things to be better. Like it was like the idea that we had a moral imperative and an ideology, and that's what led us. That was the guiding principle behind our decisions, and we would disagree about how to accomplish it and which things were more important than others and who should pay how much and when. But like we all agreed on like the state of the world and
Mhm.
our moral imperative towards it and what our relationship to like the other people in
Mhm.
that endeavor was.
Yeah, I really miss.
And like all of that is gone. Like it
Yeah,
just feels so gone.
I really miss when Obama and Romney were running against each other, and even though I was like, you know what, I'd be all right if Romney won. I wouldn't be happy, but I'd be all right with him. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
when McCain was running, even though Palin was a nut job, I was like, still John McCain, man. I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried about John McCain. You know, George W. Bush previously was like the worst president to me. I was like, oh my god, this is the absolute. He wasn't the worst. I mean,
Yeah. I
there's
would.
people worse, but at the time, I was like, oh my. In my lifetime, I was like, I can't believe this guy's such an embarrassment. And now looking back, it's like, yeah, they did some illegal stuff. You know what I mean? Not on this level. You know
Like
what I
if the
mean?
Democrats ran Dick Cheney against Donald Trump, I'd vote for
I'd
him.
vote for Cheney. I know, but
You know,
God, I would hate having to do that vote, but I would definitely do it
I mean, I'd vote for
because at least
Punxsutawney Phil over Trump.
Dick Cheney and George W. Bush as and this is more towards Dick Cheney than George W. Bush. I think George W. Bush was more incompetent, but as
Hmm.
evil as I think they are, right? I do believe that they want what's right for this country, even if I disagree with what that is. I
Yeah,
don't think there's anybody. I mean, there's the people who are really drinking the Trump Kool Aid, but any serious person with a brain, I don't think believes Trump gives a shit about the country. He gives a shit about himself, his wealth, his power, his ego. He doesn't give a shit about the country. He doesn't. He could care less, man. If he could sell off all the liberal states to Putin or just Kim Jong Un in exchange for some money, he'd do it. Who cares? Hey,
and like I don't even understand like I, maybe this is like a perspective thing, but like I can't even understand the why behind that, because like dude's 80 something years old. He likes McDonald's, like he doesn't drive cars as he was just saying as he was doing his Tesla advertisement at the White House the other day. Like
it's like a rich person who's a
like what is he going to
kleptomaniac.
do with more money,
Here's the thing. Well, that's rich
like
people, man. That's the insanely rich people, and that's like it's like the rich girl who's a klepto. She doesn't do it because she needs makeup. She does it because it's the thrill of doing it and getting away with it. It's that's
yeah.
what it is for Trump. It's the thrill of knowing that you can just do whatever the fuck you want to do, and they can't stop you. And check it out. Even if the court tells you can't do it, what are they going to do about it? They can't do shit. I run the executive branch. I'm in charge of the police officers. They can't do it. I have the attorney general. It's
Yeah.
a it's just a way to it's a way to pretend he's swinging a big dick when he has that little mushroom. You know, that's what it
I think
is.
it's like I think for him, like, did you read I can't remember what her name was. I think it was like Laura Trump. It was his niece. She became a
Lara Trump.
psychologist.
Oh wait, you're talking about Lara Trump, not the one who sings the national anthem badly.
No, I'm talking about his niece who is
Mary
very
Trump.
anti-Trump, but she wrote a book
Mary.
about like the
Mary.
family history.
Mary Trump.
Mary Trump. Okay. Um, but like she wrote this really good book about like this like what his home life was like when he was a kid and throughout like his early years in his life and like stuff with his brother and stuff with his dad. Um, and I think a lot of that informs this. It was this very like
Oh yeah, dad's
competitive.
a
Everyone's
criminal.
trying to screw everyone over.
Your dad's a
Like
criminal.
like meanness for the sake of
Evil.
meanness.
Yeah,
Like no love, no empathy, no compassion.
and
Like
nothing happened. Yeah, there's a way shaped by his family life for sure. You know,
it's like I think she says like his dad was probably like an undiagnosed psychopath, and he has all the hallmarks of a narcissist, and it's probably because of being raised by a psychopath.
nature versus nurture. I mean, it could be both.
Could be both.
but but I do think he's a traitor, and I think once everybody comes to the conclusion that he is a traitor and he will do whatever he can do that benefits himself at the expense of the country, nothing seems crazy anymore. At least
I honestly do not see how this collection of things that he's doing can be viewed as like
good for
a
America.
pro-American collection of things to do. Like
Well,
I
I
don't
could I could
I
argue that.
could
I
not
could argue
I
that from
could not like
I could
if I
argue
was
it.
not just lying through my teeth, just throwing hype at just like lipstick on a pig, okay? If I was
Well,
not just putting lipstick on a pig, I could not like make a compelling argument for
I
it
can make a
without
compelling
just
argument
like
for it.
lying.
I can make a compelling argument for it because we have all adopted over the last 20 years a line that I hated 20 years ago, which is talk about all the immigrants doing the jobs that Americans won't do. 20 years ago, I fucking hated that line. I hated that line. Our
Why?
economy wasn't the shit. It wasn't the shitter. And it's basically like, oh, okay, so we should reward big agricultural conglomerates by letting them hire illegal workers who are going to work for way less than minimum wage because we don't want to pay Americans a living wage. Now, that's not what Trump's arguing because they're not. He's not trying to say we need to pay everybody living wages and give pay increases, and that's why immigration's bad, and that's why these things are bad. But
Hmm.
that is a compelling argument for slapping on tariffs and cracking down on illegal immigration. Yeah, that would be a reason to do it. You know what I mean? Pay Americans more
Hmm.
money, pay us a living wage, stop having people come in there working for $2 an hour without tips. You know what I mean? And that would be an argument for it. And something. Hey, Americans would do this job. Hey, know what? For $50,000, I bet you there's a lot of Americans who would go down there and pick avocados. Of
This
course,
goes back to
I think
my
avocados will way
my
up. But
my talking point about billionaires. A billionaire eats one dinner. A million
yeah.
people eat a million dinners.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't pay the people who make food more money when so much of the money is pooled at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can afford to pay 3 times as much for food. And I'll tell you what, I bet a lot of people would love, and I mean this sincerely, I bet a lot of people would
Another job.
love to be out in the sun,
Mm-hmm.
to be in nature, to be handling plants,
Yep.
to be working on the mission of feeding America
There
and
are
have all the health benefits of sunshine and labor that come with it and like the feeling of like doing something
not only that,
productive
Gabe.
and being in connection with the earth. Like so many people would love that if they could afford to do
People
it.
pay to do it, Gabe. People pay to do that. If you go to farms in Indiana, seriously, I'm not even joking
Seriously?
you. There's farms all over the place here in Indiana and
Oh, like pay
Michigan.
to pick?
Yes,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
pay to go out there for hours and pick apples and pick raspberries and pick fruits and fill up buckets. They pay.
Yeah, yeah. We go to the apple orchard and pick our
If
own apples.
people would
I've
pay
done it.
money to
Yeah.
do it, people would do it for a living.
Yeah. Absolutely. If it just like if it paid, if you could get good money,
If you do what you
working
love,
the
you never
earth.
work a day in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
But yeah.
Totally.
Oh man, the first time I saw people doing that here, they're like, "Oh, we're going out to the whatever orchard. Yeah, we're gonna pay blah 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 blah. We're getting like 3 or 4 buckets of blueberries." I'm like, "What? We're going to the farm. You're gonna go to a farm and just pick blueberries out in the sun. You're just out there in the sun for hours on end picking blueberries. Yeah, it's fun." I'm like, "Wow, okay, you're paying."
Blueberries are delicious. Sunshine is
Yeah,
great. You're at the
yeah,
dirt on your
that's
hands.
what they
Like
said. Yeah.
yeah. You get a good sweat. You're tired at the end of the day. You feel like you did something.
So that's why I always hated that line. Like we're paying people to do jobs that Americans won't do. Well, it's not that. It's that Americans don't want to do it for $2 an hour, and it's illegal to pay Americans $2 an hour to do it. You know,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
but that's not the argument that Trump is even making. He's not even
No.
making that argument.
No, not at all. Like, cause what he hasn't talked about at all in all of this. So, like, in all of this, right? If the problem is we're 35, let's just switch it. Okay, I'm not even going to use the numbers from like the American economy, but we're going to talk about the deficit in the economy and like we're going to describe the problem. Okay, so the problem is this: like, I personally, or we collectively are in debt. Okay,
I'm waiting.
and in order to solve our debt, we have a couple of options. One of the options is we can stop buying candy bars. Like we buy a candy bar like every day, and like it adds up. It's like candy bars are like $3 a candy bar now. So like $3 a day, that's like $90 a month in candy bars. Okay.
Is your analogy to candy bars like F-35s?
No, the candy bars are like, firing all the park rangers and the IRS workers, et
Oh,
cetera,
okay,
et
that's a
cetera.
little bit of
That's
money.
right.
Okay.
So we're gonna save money by like cutting costs, right? I'm
Okay.
gonna stop buying candy bars. Okay, that's option number one. Okay, and that's an option. Like I
Save a little
won't
bit
spend $90 on candy bars. That is an option. Okay, but option number two is I raise my income
of money. Get a
I
second
just
job.
multiply it by 3,
Yeah.
right? Like let's
Hmm.
just say like let's say for the sake of argument that I make 5 grand a month. So like Option number one, okay, stop buying candy bars, save $90 a month. Option number two, triple my income, okay, make $15,000 a month, have 10,000 more dollars a month. 10,000 versus 90. This is the thing that we're talking about. And what
Mm.
no one is talking about like, oh, we have $34 trillion in debt. What should we do? We should probably go to the people who have benefited the most from the current system, who have all so much money that they can just spend $270 million on an election, or they can spend $40 billion buying Twitter so they can run it into the ground, or like all of the nonsense, right? So we can have like Jeff Bezos buy a $500 million yacht that he has to have them demolish a bridge because they built the mast too tall to get under the bridge, and that's the only way it can get to the ocean. So he's like trying to sue them to make them take down the bridge so we can get his boat out of the fucking dock where it was built. Like the nonsense, or like we're going to consolidate all of the news media behind five companies, and we're going to like cover every website that you can ever look at on your phone, so that 70% of the screen is just ads that you can't close on every website ever for all time. It's just constant ads, like 10% content, 90% ads. Or we're going to like put all the food into like five companies are going to make all the food and own the entire food industry, or just Amazon is going to be your only option for this. Or no matter how
Yeah, we
much
get it.
money you make,
Yeah.
your only option will be to go and buy money for an infinite amount of money instead of for a fixed amount of money, right? Like if so much money that you can just like shit all over the system, buy up all the houses so no one can buy a house, and the only option is to rent one from you at like way more than what it would have cost if you hadn't bought all the houses. Like they have so much money that they can just do this like ruinous shit to like make it so you'll own nothing and be happy, lol, aka miserable, because you're just constantly in debt till the day you die, right? No one is suggesting that we just go to the people who have way the fuck more than they need and take some of it to like pay down the debt. They're like, let's stop eating candy bars, and it is the most
Well,
it, it
I
is the
think they're
most
doing worse than that. They're doing
frustratingly
worse than that. It's worse than
self-defeating
that.
thing, because like, yes, they're like, let's stop eating candy bars, and instead of taking money from the rich people, let's give them more of our money.
Yes, that's why I'd say it's way worse than that. Because not only is it that they're not talking about taking money away, and actually, it's not even quote they. It's just Republicans. Democrats did want to increase the taxes on them. People didn't vote for that though. People voted for the I'm going to make everything better, and it'll be easy.
See, this is the part I disagree. People didn't vote for person who talks in policy. They voted for person who speaks about outcomes
That's
and
exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
talks about problems.
Exactly. That's what I just said. The Democrats had a policy. Yes, they did want to increase the taxes on those rich people. They did want to make the corporations pay, blah, 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 blah. The people voted for the majority, slight majority, very slight majority, voted for the person who said, I'll make it better. That's it, with no plan. They don't want
Exactly.
policy. But they did attack her for not having a specific enough policy, even though he had none.
That's just like you're a black woman, everything, you're held to a different standard. That's just like the typical two-faced, we're clinging on to as much racism as we can hold in our hot little hands,
Yeah,
classic American bullshit.
yeah. So, I don't know. So, what, I don't know. What do you think the future holds for these voters who will vote for somebody who,
What do I think the future holds? I think, like I'm struggling to be optimistic.
you don't
Um,
have to say what's optimistic. That's the next question, remember?
yeah, I know. I was just gonna say, like, I'll save like any optimism for like what could go right. But like, what do I think is gonna happen? Here's what I think is gonna happen. I think the price of housing is gonna go up. I think the cost of food is gonna go up. I think that
Unemployment probably will go up.
people are going to start defaulting on their debt in mass, because like the thing we didn't get to was like, because of the way they've changed a bunch of the like student loan stuff, like it's making it so education is more expensive, like less accessible to more people, and people who already have debt are having to pay much larger amounts of it, um, because like a whole bunch of different programs and things that Biden had put in place were no longer there. So like tons of people, like the government has like 1.4 trillion dollars of student debt that they've like guaranteed. Um, and like tons of those people, like an absurd amount, like 60-70% of those people are starting to default on their loans, like because they can't pay it because like the cost went from 250 a month to $900 a month or more, and people can't handle like an extra $1,000 hit to their budget because they just don't make enough. So like, my prediction is all of the things that you have to survive are going to cost more, and all of the ways that most people, the people who make money by doing a job for a certain amount of time and getting some money back in exchange for that, are going to have less money. The people who make money by having money are going to make more money. So I think we're going to go into a recession, if not a full-on depression. I think the stock market is going to just continue to plummet until it becomes catastrophic, existential. Um, and my part of like I've been like listening to different people talk about like what do they think is like the motivation behind this, and one of the things in there was this thought that this was like one of those Instagram things that was one of the videos I wanted to talk about, but it was about how like war is a policy choice, and it was ultimately like making the argument that if everyone is fat and happy, if everyone has enough to eat and enough money to go on vacation and buy a car and, buy a house and send their kids to school on a single family income, nobody wants to go to war. Nobody has the appetite for war. Nobody has the appetite for like riots in the street, right? But if you take everything away and you make everything hard and you make everything expensive, everybody gets upset. And now everybody is willing to do anything to feel less upset. And I think that that's part of it. I think it's like, well, Americans don't want to go to war. Let's make everything hurt. So maybe they'll want to go to war with Mexico, or maybe they'll want to conquer Canada. I think it's ultimately like a plan to destabilize the West. Because I mean, my position is that Trump is a Russian asset, whether he's an agent and working with them directly, or he's just compromised and poisoned by their ideas and lifted up by them bailing him out in the 70s financially. But like he's just so compromised, like he is selfish and doesn't care if he ruins the West. So I think everything. My prediction is everything will get worse.
Oh yeah, I
Deep,
think that.
deep recession, maybe a depression, bad times all around.
Yeah, I was actually reading a little U.S. economic outlook for 2025 to 2026, and this is from University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. It's a research seminar in quantitative economics, right? And it's a whole thing by a bunch of all of their people here, right? And their
Hmm.
directors emeriti, whatever. And
Emeritus.
yeah, well, plural emeriti.
Oh, okay.
Directors
I hadn't heard that one.
emeriti.
I see.
So
I see.
anyway, but yeah, and they're looking at all the things here and all the stats and the trends and everything else, and yeah, they're predicting that we will end up going up to the largest percent of our GDP. The federal deficit will climb to approximately 6.1% of GDP, right? Or from 6.1% to 6.8% of our GDP by 2026, which that level of spending on the deficit is going to be unprecedented outside of wars, the pandemic, or the most severe recessions our country ever had. Um,
You remember like the way we won the Cold
inflation,
War was by like
outspending
using
them.
the space race and like the arms
Weapons.
race to like bankrupt Russia?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like China's doing that to us right now. Like
We're doing it
we're
for
getting
ourselves.
so close to like defaulting on the debt, like we
Well,
just
we're
keep
not being. We're not.
adding.
Actually, we're not. We're not even nearly. We're not even next to close to it. There's actually real reason to think like why they're talking about how the debt doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, I mean because the percentage of your deficit and your debt doesn't matter if your GDP is growing at the same or bigger rate. You know what I mean? And no,
I thought that it was getting, but okay, maybe I'm just like I haven't looked at the numbers in close enough, and that's true. I haven't looked at it super closely, but the thing that I thought
like
was
six.
that we're getting close to like the interest is getting close to the annual growth of GDP, and so that like we're getting close to the point where like we're not going to be able to borrow at
Well,
the same rate, and
well,
then
that's the problem with when you have a recession. As long as your economy's booming, it's cool. You know, when your economy contracts, and you're not growing, and you haven't done anything about your debt, that's when you're in trouble. You know what I mean? So I
mm-hmm.
mean, if you just deficit spending in itself, it doesn't really matter. And the fact is, we are paying a ton of money to the interest on the debt, not even the debt, just the interest. I think what is it, $500 billion a year? I think 500 billion dollars goes to the interest. Is that
100,
right?
170 billion
That's
lifts
it.
every American above the poverty line, by the way. A third,
Yeah,
less than a third
yeah,
of what we pay in interest.
yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying, it's like we can afford it, and in good
Mm.
times, it's like the Clinton years, man. Hey, they get a balanced budget, and the economy's booming, and cool. We have a surplus, and let's pay down the debt. Good deal, you know. And then we
Hmm.
went into war a year later, not even a year later. You know what I mean? And they had to give huge tax breaks to the rich people again the first time around under Bush, and they gave away all of that surplus money that we were using to pay down the debt. So I mean, if they just let the tax cuts expire instead of putting them on there again, because I mean, really, we're all acting like, oh, they want to give more tax. They were going to expire. We were sitting on your, in your analogy about your huge $10,000, dollars a month income. We were sitting on a little thing where right around the corner we were about to get another $2 trillion because all those other tax cuts going away. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
On the rich, but instead they're like, nope, no, 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 no. We got to keep giving those 2 trillion. And actually, you know what? We should give them something better. Let's give them another trillion or two.
And they're talking about like trying to make that permanent. Like there are people in the
Yeah.
Senate who are like, yeah, well, we don't like that they're only making these tax cuts like go on for another decade. We want them to go on forever. We're not trying
Forever.
to make rich people pay ever.
Yeah. It's bullshit. I mean,
It's
and honestly,
bullshit.
here, you know what? A 10-year thing or a 5-year thing or whatever. If you know what, I as much as I hated it, hey, you know what? What if it did it? What if it would have been an awesome thing? Okay, okay. What if it would have been like, okay, wow, that really did spur this stuff. It wouldn't, and it hasn't, and we've proven it
Hmm.
over and over again. But at least you
Hmm.
know what? Out on 10-year things, like, hey, cool, we'll try it for 10 years. You know,
Hmm.
markets are cyclical, whatever. We'll see how this rolls. You know, at the end of the ten
Maybe
years, we're
America
like,
can fail up
yeah, you know what I mean. But shit, it didn't work, and
for
whatever.
the umpteenth time.
Yep.
I think we've only been trying the same. It doesn't ever work strategy since Reagan.
Yeah. Although, again, what is permanent? Permanent doesn't mean permanent. Permanent means permanent until you get the next time you have a House and Senate that you can just do a reconciliation deal and change the tax code. So I mean,
Yeah.
again, permanent doesn't mean shit. I mean, look at Roe v. Wade. Look at
Well,
look
Roe
at
v.
the
Wade was never the right way to do that. It should have been an amendment to the
okay.
Constitution.
All right. Well, think about the plain text of the Constitution, even that says, you know, um, you can't hold office if you participated or gave aid and comfort to an insurrection. I mean, there's that. You know,
It wasn't an insurrection. It was a
well,
speech.
no, because they actually had a trial on the merits in Colorado, and yes, they actually had a trial, and they went through evidence, and they ruled yes, it was an
Oh right,
insurrection.
yeah, that's why they were
That's why
taking him
they
off the
were like,
ballot.
you can't take him off the ballot just because you had a trial on the merits and proved it wasn't insurrection and he took part in it. But the Constitution says right here, well, Colorado doesn't get to say that. We get to say that. We say he's on the ballot. So yeah,
Exactly.
whatever.
Can change
Uh,
anything if you steal it.
yeah. So all right, how might we all die, Gabe?
Okay, there I have a list
You have
of
a list.
several
Oh man, I
things.
don't got time for
I
a list.
I texted
What
it to you.
one
I'll
or
just
two?
do it. I'll just do a few.
Okay.
Okay, let me scroll up. Okay. Okay, so basically the idea of this was like a no stakes bet on what will kill us first. It's like a squares thing where you can kind of pick your square. So I'll read four and we'll both pick a square and maybe we can do like four more next time. Or even three. Well, I'll just do three. I'll do the first three. Um, okay, here's the first one. Quantum computers break all the passwords and hackers ruin everything. We slowly fall into ruin as society collapses. That's option number one. AI takes over and kills us all some way we never see coming or something obvious. That's way number two. Robot army merges with AI and kills everyone. That's number three. Okay. Robot army, uh, hackers break everything, or Terminator. Which one do you think? Pick
Terminator.
your Terminator.
Terminator.
I think. Well, I've been watching the show um, on Netflix with Robert De Niro, where he plays the former president.
Hmm.
It's called Zero Day.
I
It's
wanted
about
to
like
see that
this.
too. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good political thrill. It's a nice distraction from like the real political problems with like a decent amount of seriousness to silliness and nonsense ratio. Like it's pretty good. Um, but yeah, so I'm gonna go with hackers ruin everything, and we just slowly fall into like a decline that kills everyone.
how might we all die? Well, for Jesus. All right. My scenario is the Trump administration may try some smoke and mirrors. We'll call it a maskirovka. Okay.
Maskarovka.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but
It's,
go on.
it's like a mask,
Con-
a deception. Russian. You know what I mean? Russian. You know. I think.
okay.
I think you might try to uh, help the cities. With their lead pipes and everything else and infrastructure, and actually poison all the blue areas. And the government will just try to quash dissent that way, and actually
Ooh,
introduce poison to the water supply of the big cities and areas that disagree with him. That's what I think.
I like it because I feel like I feel a sense of safety and insulation from that possibility because like of the amount of competence required to poison
Yeah, sure.
people so specifically at those at
Yeah.
that scale. But I like it. I like it. Yeah, no, I could totally see them going for like a oopsie, we killed all the Democrats plot.
Their
That seems
their
like something
EPA
they would do.
people, their EPA people are making sure that they're safe. Maybe they're introducing the poison supply. I don't know. I could see that.
I could see that.
I don't know what the
I could
future
see that.
holds. I'm hoping the future holds. Here's what the thing though, because we were still talking about. I didn't get the future holds,
Yeah, you
and
didn't get your what's your future holds.
it
Yeah, what do you think will happen?
coincides
What's your
with what
prediction?
can go right. Okay,
Okay.
Donald Trump, if y'all saw, was for a TV for a stunt for Tesla, because everything he's doing now is helping Russia and Elon Musk, right? He did this show of buying a Tesla at the White House, right, and having it there,
Mm-hmm.
paying $80,000 for a Tesla, right? What can go right, and what could the future hold? Maybe it catches on fire and he gets trapped inside of it. It's a double whammy right there. What the future holds and what could go right.
Okay, your prediction is Trump dies in a car fire, a
A
Tesla car
Tesla
fire.
fire. Yes, and the
Okay.
stock, and that might actually. But the bad part is that would probably rally the Tesla stock and make it actually go up. Because
No, that would make it go down.
if
Are
you
you
kill
kidding me?
Trump, come
Yeah,
on,
if it
man.
killed Trump,
I'd
it'd
want to
go
buy a
down.
Tesla. I'd want to buy a Tesla. I'd invest in Tesla if they killed Trump.
Dude, if the car is so unsafe that it
It
manages to
can't be.
like
It can't be
kill the
insured.
president of the United States,
Geico
that
stopped.
would be huge.
Geico stopped covering Tesla Cybertrucks.
Good.
Yeah. So, go Geico.
Good. Go
Anyway,
Geico.
all right. Your turn.
We are looking for sponsorships, Geico, so reach out to us.
uh,
Uh, Actually, I don't even have a business email. I should put that reminds me, note to self to make a business email and get a link tree going. I do need to get a link tree going for
my
this.
my son was watching a video where a guy named Burger, right, and his girlfriend's last name was King. They were getting married, and they reached out to Burger King, think it'd be funny, right? Like, hey, Burger King, can we use your little logo for a wedding? And Burger King took it a step farther and like sponsored stuff and gave them all kinds of free stuff and did a big thing for their wedding, right?
Wow.
Maybe we could reach out to Geico.
Okay, we could. Oh, Brother News, sponsored by
Geico.
your name here.
Fighting the good fight against Tesla.
Uh, okay. What could go right? What do you think could go right?
that's that's about the only thing I think could go right.
All right, I got one. I'm gonna shift. I'll shift us all. I'll put us back into a positive headspace. What could go right? So we didn't get to it, but the uh, Ukrainians have indicated that they're
Yeah,
open to a ceasefire.
they pulled out a curse.
And while generally speaking, I think a ceasefire would mostly just be an opportunity for Russia to have back some political and economic advantage, and that they would probably encircle everyone in Kursk, and then in a few months or
They've
a
just
few
pulled out a curse
years,
already. They're
they
out
would just start another war. They'd drum up some reason for fake provocation, and they would start a war. Um, but my what could go right, okay, is
there. European.
that is that in calling their bluff, as you were saying, that they will reveal themselves to not be interested in peace, and it will result in a renewed effort for like renewed support for Ukraine
Which
and
they did.
renewed or I guess like a continued bolstering of like European defense spending and armament and like building up their militaries that so like it'll give Russia a bigger, more well-armed foe, and it will reveal them to be disinterested in peace because from the beginning this wasn't about saving the
Russia.
Russians in the certain part of Ukraine or like the Jewish president of the country being a Nazi or any other nonsense bullshit that they've said that it was. It was always about destroying Ukraine.
Yep.
And because that's what it was always about, they're not going to go for a ceasefire, and they'll reveal themselves, and hopefully that will be helpful to Ukraine. That's my what could go right.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I mean, that definitely could go right. But
What's like a
by the way, they're
domestic
out of
what
Kursk
could go
already.
right?
They're basically already out of Kursk though. The Russians cut through on a supply road into Kursk, so Ukrainians bugged out of there. They're out of Kursk already.
Oh, they left. Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay,
Yeah,
well
it's
that's
like,
good.
not really.
I
Because
mean,
now,
it's good because like I really was thinking that like they would do a ceasefire for like a month or 2 months or something, or like some really short amount of time that would just be long enough for them to kind of like build some extra bombs and like move some troops to surround Kursk, and then they'd go in and kill all those guys.
well,
So if those guys made it out and got back,
yeah,
to the main forces without getting wiped out, that's a win in my book.
but now they have hundreds of thousands of troops right on the other side there now too, near Sumy and Kharkiv. Which maybe not. Maybe they go in there. Maybe they don't. Maybe they move all those forces down to Pokrovsk and on the south, where the Ukrainians have been pushing them back. Maybe they won't be able to keep pushing them back if they get all those other forces down there now. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I am somewhat surprised and glad that they turned back on the deliveries of the rest of the arms that Biden promised them. There's still nothing new, but they're going to continue. They like yesterday, immediately after that, the Ukrainians made that speech about the peace thing. They turned back on the flow of the remaining weapons that we've already promised them. So that was good, but
And the intelligence.
in the intelligence, yeah, which I bet I wonder if it really truly ever got turned off because I don't know. I know
I mean,
the
the day that
president
they
might say something, but I wonder if they're still, man. The Ukrainians are talking to people. They've been talking to people for years. Intelligence, and what I mean, the communications. I'd be really shocked if it just went silent all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
I mean, the day that they said that they shut it off, there was a massive attack by Russia. So
There's been
I don't
massive
know.
attacks by Russia every single day.
No, but it was like it was an especially big one.
So
It was a unusually big one.
either way, I really do hope that goes right, man. And yeah, definitely.
You're gonna piggyback on my what could go right?
Well, Tesla, he could die in his Tesla.
Oh, right. That's right. That's right. Yes, that would be great. That would be That'd be so right, because that would be like a double whammy. Because like I think Tesla stock would go down
I
even
was making a
more.
joke about it going up. I was just talking about how
Yeah,
they've been shedding all their stuff because nobody wants to buy a Nazi mobile. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If it killed Trump, I mean, at least you'd be able to say, "Hey,
I
look
mean,
at
I'd join a GoFundMe to buy one for
that."
Vance if one takes
Yeah,
out Trump. So
exactly.
I guess
All
there's
right.
some logic there.
Yeah. So, all right.
Okay, well, I think
Hey,
this was our
I
best
will.
episode.
I will see you today, next week.
Today, next week. Wow, what's
It'll
happening
still
today,
be
next
it'll
week?
still be one calendar day. Next week will still be one calendar day from today. So yeah,
Yes,
every
yes.
episode will be the same day.
Don't worry, fan. We'll be back with more news before you know it, before the day is out.
All right. Good night, everybody, and
Good
good luck to us
luck.
all.
All right.